There are countless deep dives and reviews here on YouTube about Fallout, examining the series from every possible angle, whether looking at each title individually or analyzing them as a whole. Many explore the themes and stories of these games in detail. I even get the feeling that some of you might be a little tired of these Fallout videos. So, naturally, I decided to make one myself. This time I want to focus on what could be considered the New Vegas of the isometric Fallout games. Join me as we take an in-depth look at Fallout Sonora. Sonora is, simply put, a Fallout 2 mod. But that's about the only thing simple about it, because everything else is far from it. I swear there must be a sweatshop for making Gothic and Fallout 2 mods somewhere in Central Europe and Russia that are churning out content for these games like sausages. There is a veritable avalanche of mods coming from this general region of the world. I guess Gothic reminds us of how people usually react to you, and Fallout of the blogs many of us lived in the 80s and 90s. They looked very post-apocalyptic. Anyway, I stumbled upon this one by pure chance. I'm not usually a big fan of mods that introduce new fan-made stories. More often than not, I found them disappointing in the end. But Fallout Sonora is something special. There's no voice acting, which is to be expected, but the way the game is built, its story curated, and the sheer amount of new assets created make it feel like Fallout New Vegas of all games, only on the classic engine of the first two Fallout games. I first discovered this game while searching for art that reimagined how New Vegas might look if it were made with the engine from the original Fallout games. That's when I came across a scene from Goodsprings recreated by an artist who contributed to Sonora. Alexander Berezin was his name. From there I explored the artist page and discovered new weapons specifically designed for Sonora. Eventually I found gameplay videos on YouTube and realized this wasn't just a concept, it was a fully functional game. That piqued my interest and I decided to check it out. Language was a significant barrier for me, as I can't speak or read Russian, so finding a native language pack was an absolute lifesaver. There's an English translation for Sonora, but I'm not sure how good it really is. Strangely enough, I have a feeling that the Polish and other Central European translations are far more polished and functional than the English one. And that's how I played it with the Polish language pack. Oh, and there's even an add-on for Sonora called Dayglow. I'll definitely be installing that one too. As always, expect massive spoilers for the entire game. If this mod sounds interesting to you, pause right now, go play it and come back later. It's absolutely worth avoiding spoilers. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe and share. Character creation in Fallout Sonora is essentially the same as in the base Fallout games. Only some perks have been reworked along with certain skills, but they basically work the same. As usual, I'll stick with my standard build, an intelligent, agile energy weapon specialist who can throw a good punch when needed. Oh, and I'm a pretty decent doctor too. You might think that tagging the doctor skill is a waste of a tag slot, but not this time around. You'll soon see. The game begins in the villa, specifically a ransacked villa. This is where my character grew up, a small farming community that, for all intents and purposes, is isolated or extremely insistent upon keeping to itself. I don't yet know where this place fits in the greater picture, but I'll figure it out soon enough. Unfortunately, isolationist communities make for easy targets. Raiders attacked, looting the place and kidnapping many of our people, or so says Grandmother Adoncia. She sends me downstairs to retrieve some items belonging to the village's founder. Not the most heroic way to start an adventure, but hey, it's a start. Luckily, the introductory dungeon is compact and my hand-to-hand combat skills make short work of the rats in the basement. In the final room, I find a raider who apparently fell down the stairs during the attack. His predicament is unfortunate, but I pretend to let him go and then, let's just say I teach him a lesson. What? I didn't like his attitude. Plus, he lacked foresight. If you don't want to get stuck in a basement, maybe don't fall into one. Either way, one less raider is always a good thing. Beyond that room, I discover a vault suit and a Pip-Boy. With these in hand, I head back to the surface, ready to see just how bad things are. Turns out it's pretty grim. Homes and rooms have been ransacked, supplies stolen, and more than half of the community abducted. I speak with my uncle, who conveniently marks the location of the nearest town on my map. That seems like the best place to start looking for our missing people. Yeah, I'll get to that. I still have some time to take a quick look around. There's quite a bit to do in the villa. This introductory area is excellent at, well, introducing the game and its mechanics. Sure, if you played Fallout before, which is highly likely, you'll probably be familiar with most of this. But the key thing here is that this area offers something for every type of character build to shine. Oh, a crooked radio tower, or at least something that looks like one. Ah, it's actually a weather station. Let's fix that up. It seems like a valuable piece of equipment for a farming community. While I'm at it, there's a shelf that also needs to be taken care of. Now onto the human maintenance. Someone was injured in the raid, and as a possible doctor myself, I think I can help. There we go, good as new. What's this? More raiders? Are these the same ones who attacked the villa? Yeah, well, no. They're just opportunists who noticed the commotion and decided to loot the barn. They're after the flowers stored inside. I could give it to them and make them leave, but if I manage to bring my community back safely, they'll need that flower to avoid hunger. So I tell them to kindly fuck off, to which they don't respond too well. But that's nothing I can't handle. A hit and run tactic works perfectly fine. Having an AP advantage really pays off. I suspect I could have persuaded them to leave if I had better speech skills, but it is what it is. And now there are 2 more bodies added to the aftermath of the villa raid. This area really demonstrates what I meant when I said it's good at introducing mechanics. The difficulty of most tasks is low enough that many character builds can handle them, and there's great variety. You can try your hand at speed, repair, medicine, traps, combat, blockpicking, and even a quest or 2. It's an excellent way to dip your toes into different activities and see how they work. What's even more impressive though is that this isn't just an introduction. It's a template for all the other locations in the game. But you'll see what I mean in due time. We'll revisit this later down the road. And while we're on the topic of down the road, let's see what lies ahead as we travel to Garage City, the nearest town and probably the only settlement outside the villa that its residents know about. Stepping onto the world map gives me a rough idea of where I am. I guess the title of this game was also a dead giveaway. I'm somewhere in Arizona, possibly with parts of New Mexico further east. There's also definitely a large chunk of actual Mexico, given that most of the Sonoran desert lies there. This realization made me quite excited to see what the game has to offer. It's probably the first time I've had the opportunity to cross the pre-war border in a Fallout game. The Mexican theme sounds promising. Let's see what, if anything, the developers did with it. But first, let's get to Garage City. If this location gives you very strong Junktown vibes, you're absolutely right. It is Junktown, but better. Better quest, better premise. I wonder if the developers deliberately modeled the first town on Junktown, maybe to show that old ideas have some pep in it and can be improved. Or perhaps, more likely, to provide a sense of familiarity to the player after the villa. This sort of town made me feel right at home, down to the opening visuals. The guy at the gate doesn't have much to say about slave caravans, or maybe he just doesn't want to. Either way, no leads here. Let's look around. Soon I find someone who needs medical attention, and of course, I'll help them. I really should start charging for my services. And what's this? A trailer? I'm pretty sure that this is an entirely new sprite in-game. Beneath it, there's a cap stamping machine. A pity that I can only dismantle it. Would love to use it myself to do a little counterfeiting on the side. Oh, and a welder. I believe that someone in the residential area was looking for this. There's also a workbench with my first energy weapon. After a bit of repair work, it's functional. Not amazing, but it'll do. Ammo is scarce, so I'll keep punching things for now. Oddly, using brass knuckles seems to make my punches weaker, so I'll stick to bare hands. Oh well, I'll probably get something better eventually. There's a lot to do in Garage City, exploring, fighting, questing, and plenty of opportunities to use non-combat skills. I could get used to this. Though, let's not lose sight of the reason why I'm here. Right up the main street is someone who looks like an important person in this town, Mr. Kogan. Yeah, I don't like him. He doesn't seem like the trustworthy type. He implies that he knows something I'll find useful, so I'll play along, for now. I'm tasked with going to an abandoned Watts plant to get some parts Kogan intends to sell. In the factory, I find Lucas, one of Kogan's employees, or rather, a former employee. He isn't very talkative at first, but insists on getting the list of buyers from his former boss. I can either kill Lucas or listen to him and retrieve the list. He also tells me that Kogan not only knew about the attack on the villa, but actively facilitated it. Well, that's all the convincing I need. I'll get that list. I sneak into Kogan's room and hack his computer. There I find the buyer list, along with proof that he was complicit in abducting my people, as well as the location they were taken to next, a place called Flagstaff. Good to know, it gives me direction. And Kogan will get what's coming to him. Back to Lucas with the list. He explains his vision for the factory. I must admit that his ideas are far better than anything Kogan has in mind. You see, Kogan's operation is glorified scavenging. This whole town's economy is based on stripping parts from the defunct factory and selling them. That doesn't sound very sustainable. That said, there must have been a massive amount of stuff to salvage, since it was enough to allow an entire town to spring up. The problem is that the ruins are running dry. This is where Lucas comes in. He wants to get the factory up and running again, so they can actually produce something for a change and stop relying on finite resources, creating actual jobs in the process. These two visions for Garage City come to a head on the outskirts of town and the factory. A dramatic showdown between the old and the new, between progress and stagnation. I for one think that Kogan has outlived his usefulness. Plus, I have a nagging feeling that under his continued influence, this place would crumble to dust in no time. I help Lucas in his laser diplomacy debate with his former boss. Securing the refurbishment of the factory and, hopefully, the town's survival. As a side note, I could have persuaded them to work together, but Kogan struck me as someone who would backstab Lucas at the very first opportunity. This town is better off without him. And the fact that I had a personal bone to pick with him on behalf of my people, well, that had nothing to do with it. Okay, maybe just a bit. With the feeling of a job well done, I set my sights on Flagstaff, the place mentioned in Kogan's computer logs. Looks like a uranium mining town. Oh, a church even, belonging to some cult called the Church of Holy Fire. If I am to believe the preacher, they are pretty widespread here in Arizona. In fact, he claims that this very town was founded by them, which immediately puts them on my bad side. Although I won't say no to a permanent skill increase he can provide in his back room. Wait, that came out wrong. I mean, if I donate enough money, he will allow me to use the book collection he has back there. But why did they land immediately on my bad side? For one, this asshole will not provide medical treatment to a child unless his father converts to the religion. Don't worry, this is something that a traveling doctor like me can and will take care of immediately, taking the church supplies from the basement as compensation. The other thing is that the whole mining operation here is being done rather involuntarily. Yes, it's plain and simple slavery. What's more, the slaves are wearing explosive collars around their necks, which makes escaping more difficult. In fact, some of my people are being held here, including my mother. So, if the church founded this city, that means they don't see anything wrong with this, as long as they are on top of the food chain. I, on the other hand, have a very different view on this. The one thing holding me back from making this place a bloody massacre is the fact that I'm still too weak to do that. I put that thought on the back burner for now. Let's see if I can persuade Faber, the leader of the slavers, to free my people. Yeah, He says they are useless but won't free them unless I fix whatever is wrong with their mine. Okay, not much point arguing with him. Let's see what I can do. And who's this? A slave driver who is very liberal with applying excessive force to compel workers to work a bit harder. In fact, he's so enthusiastic about his work that broken bones and near-death experiences are not uncommon. I wonder if he knows the difference between an experienced wastelander and a scrawny slave. Yeah, he didn't. And good riddance too. Let's talk to the administrator of the mine to find out what's wrong with it. Plus, I have a meal to deliver to him before it gets cold. Actually, this is one of the very few quests with a timer on it. Acting as a simple gopher isn't my ideal job, but it pays something and will ultimately lead to more work, so I'm all for it. But back to the mine. According to the administrator, there's mining equipment that needs fixing and a giant rat stalking the tunnels. That doesn't seem too challenging. Let's get to it. I get to the lowest level of the mine and to my surprise, I find two of the villa's people behind the cave-in. Luckily, this is nothing a bit of C4 can't handle. The information those two can provide isn't important. Just some stuff on how they were taken, but nothing concerning the rest of our people. More importantly, the tremor caused by the explosion lured the giant rat to our location. This could be a tough fight. I'll better be on my toes. I target the beast's eyes and that's it. It goes down with one hit. Well, that was easier than I expected. But to be perfectly honest, this encounter seems scripted in such a way that any hit to the eyes will kill this rat. I don't know if it's just dumb luck on my part that it went down that way each time, a bug or a reference. Either way, I let those two out of the caves and turned my attention to the mining machine. Repairing it with my current skills is simply impossible. Even leveling up and spending all my points on repair wouldn't solve the issue. But Sonora gave me an additional tool to solve this problem. First, there's an important change that Sonora made to most of the skill usage outside of combat. Now each instance of repair, doctor, lockpick and so on is threshold based, usually some multiplication of 20. Yes, that means if you don't have the skill for it, you can't even attempt it. There's even a perk that tells you how high a given skill must be to clear a skill check. You could say the system is more gamey than the previous one, but I like it. It's far more artificial, true, but also much more readable and understandable. Keeping that in mind, let's move on to another alteration. Now you can use certain consumables to lower the threshold of a skill check. Each of these items reduce the skill required by 20. Which means that if you're well equipped, you can tackle problems that would otherwise be out of reach. That's an awesome innovation and very intuitive too. The items themselves are fairly self-explanatory. A decoder for hacking, a lockpick for doors, and yes, previously useless junk now serves as parts for repairing things. These, unlike lockpicks, also stack. And that's exactly what I'll be using to repair this mining machinery. Damn it, I had to waste a set of parts, but it works now. Spinning around doing mining stuff, or so I assume. I have no idea what it does. Probably digs. Either way, back to Faber. And who's this? That took me off guard. What is this robot doing here? It shouldn't be here. At least I think it shouldn't. Ah, now I get it. It's the game's way of introducing me to its DLC content. An invitation to Dayglow. I'll keep that in mind. It's still way too soon for me to go there. But thank you, little robot. Consider the message delivered. Faber is very pleased with what I accomplished and agrees to let my people go. I finally talk to my mother and find out that not only were some people dragged further, but my father was among them. I send them back to the villa. It seems that my task is only half finished. But I have no clue as to where they were taken, though I have a hunch about where to start looking. Phoenix, the biggest city in Sonora. Nice lamp decorations. I see that the fire worshippers try to instill fear into the populace, upholding the law. Pretty sure that these dangling here just didn't want to convert to their religion. I have to confess that while running around Phoenix, I didn't get the feeling that the church is a big influence in people's lives. In the conversations I striked up, they seem like a political power who is pushing in to consolidate power, negotiating and coercing local gangs and groups. They don't feel like the actual, legitimate center of power for the city, not yet at least. In other words, sure, they're influential, but their influence doesn't permeate the city in a way that I expected it to. It's just like they are still building their power base. Interesting. I will look into that. For now, the city itself is far more interesting, so to the market. I have to upgrade a bit. I want better armor at the very least. Yes, leather armor. And a claw. This finally actually increases my hand-to-hand damage. Will come in handy very soon, I wager. There is even a nice lady who sells skill books. They are expensive as all hell, but the increases are very welcome. Plus, there are books for every important skill, not only the handful from the base games. Although without a decent barter skill, this is way out of my price range. I am also pretty sure that she and her dog have unique sprites. Don't remember seeing them before. Looks nice too, doesn't stand out as something that doesn't belong here. Very nice work. Ha! After finishing the script for this video, I learned that this character and her dog are not originally from Sonora. She's added as a mod for a mod. It was baked into the build of the game I was playing. Anyway, great work. I didn't even realize that this wasn't an original Sonoran creation. And here is the gun seller. That I will be promptly ignoring. I don't use conventional guns. I'm still after energy weapons, and my hand-to-hand proficiency is getting the job done anyway. Speaking of hand-to-hand, I stumbled on an arena in Phoenix. Let's put my skills to the test and earn a few caps in the process. What's this? A poor soul who had his prize-fighting dreams crushed by a nasty injury? Fear not, dear sir, I will help you. And indeed I do. I'm getting really good at this. The fights are quite challenging, but hitting the opponent in the head is still a viable tactic. I defeat every opponent, save for one. The last one needed only 2 rounds to take me apart. Each time. I'm good, but not that good. I'll give you this one, mister. We'll see us in the future, when I become the master. Yeah, that's just empty talk from me. I'm sure that I will forget about this and never return. A casino. Maybe they have something to do. I'm hurting for cabs right now. Any work will do, really. Collecting debts. Right on it. The guy, of course, doesn't have the money, but apparently knows where to get it. Okay, I'll bite. Where is it? Ah, a Nuka-Cola warehouse. Now that makes a lot of sense. There is supposed to be a crate full of caps in here. Just have to deal with the Mr. Handies. Oh, look, another new sprite, I think. Nice truck, and very clean too. There is a console on the wall. Going by the description, I could have used it to disable the robots without fighting. Sneak in and turn them off. Very nice to see that different approaches are supported. Let's divvy up the loot. What's that? The guy says that after paying me and the casinos there isn't much left? Tough luck. Be happy that I didn't bolt with the whole stash. That was a nice little side quest. Actually, Phoenix is really good at pulling your attention every which way, promising loot, quests, caps, so much so that I almost forgot why I even came here. The fire worshippers. They have to know where my people were taken. And that is exactly what I am determined to ask about. But to my very surprise, I didn't get any information here. And my relevant skills are still too low to get the information by hacking. What now? Wait, there was talk in Flagstaff about a nearby settlement. Maybe there I will be able to find out something that will point me in the right direction. I must admit that information-wise I expected much more from Phoenix, but I'm pretty sure that there is some approach that would tell me where to go next. I just wasn't able to piece it together. In every other way, it met my expectations. A solid market, tons of optional areas. I even managed to get on a good side of the local gang by freeing one of their own, as well as help local slum dwellers improve their community a little bit by the omnipresent power of my speech skill. Must admit that Phoenix did grow on me. It has the uncanny ability to expand in size the more time you put into it. Despite the individual maps being a bit smaller, the overall feel is of a very big city, especially if you find your way to all the locations. Plus the sewers give another layer too. But that doesn't bring me any closer to finding my people. I have to search elsewhere. This small piece of desert is San Brahman, a ranching community. You know, cow people. Although Phoenix is still following me in a way. Right before the entrance there is a band of mercenaries sent here by Lord Aaron, the leader of the fire worshippers, their tentacles reaching even here. They claim that this is their jurisdiction and the locals are occupying their land. Yeah, I believe them. The same way I believe that the people of the villa were hardened criminals and that was why they had to be enslaved. Their crime being resisting capture to be turned into slaves. Yeah, makes sense. With each passing moment, I like this church less and less. Still, I don't have the whole picture yet. I push into the village to see what's up. Ah, there is someone who needs help repairing a cart. Sure, let me help. I feel like I need to show the villagers that they can trust me to go anywhere with them. What? Shoveling cow shit? Oh well, why not? I myself have grown up on the farm, so I don't see much wrong with it. It's not as bad as it sounds. Although I never poison myself doing this. Maybe it works differently in a radioactive wasteland. Oh, this place looks positively ancient considering the buildings constructed outside. I wonder what its purpose was before the war. Anyway, the leader of San Brahman has a request for me. He wants to form an alliance with the Rangers and drive out the fire worshippers. Rangers? Are these the NCR Rangers or something similar? Don't know yet, but they sound like a big force here in Arizona. Okay, another thing to look into. As for right now, I don't know if I would be any help in dealing with the mercenaries. I am too weak to take them head on, and I definitely will not be able to persuade them. Although I feel bad about it, I have to leave this place without solving their main problem. But to at least do something to help them, I perform my duties as a doctor and heal the 3 men in the infirmary. That's the least I can do. But this visit to San Brahman, as well as the previous places, got me thinking about something. Have you ever, in the original Fallouts, had the idea of feeling that many skills are extremely situational and in the grand scheme of things not that useful? By that I mean that the possibilities for their use were sometimes limited or clustered in greater number in one location or another. I for one had that feeling, which ironically enough might not be the case, as for repair and science there are approximately 20 instances where you can use it in Fallout 2, but realistically it's closer to 15. But still, that is not such a small number. But the fact that you can go long stretches without using a skill makes it feel like you invested points into something that ultimately is not that useful. Sonora tries to remedy that, with great success I might add. This is where the template idea I talked about at the beginning comes in. In each place you visit, there is at least one instance for each of the most relevant skills to shine. You probably did notice by now that in every village we've been so far, there was some machinery to repair, a computer to hack, traps to disarm, or even someone to heal using the doctor skill. By the way, this is one of the reasons why I tagged the doctor skill at character creation. In Sonora, it is insanely more useful than in the other games. Each area has someone to heal and take care of. And seeing as I feel like helping people across the wasteland, this is exactly what I do. The other reason being, the use of the doctor skill on myself heals some HP and gives somewhere around 50 XP for each successful use. Sure, it's limited to 3 uses per day, and the experience gain isn't that much, all things considered. But I counted that I used it on me more than 100 times over my playthrough, which netted me well over 5000 XP. That is a nice round number and allowed me to level a bit faster. I know that it sounds like min-maxing, but it was a lot of fun to play as a doctor that can actually help people along the way with his skills. What's more, each instance for the use of any skill in Sonora makes sense. It makes sense that in Garage City, Kogan has a personal computer that can be hacked. It makes sense that in a Watts plant there is an energy weapon that can be repaired. In Phoenix City, it makes sense that there is a wounded prizefighter in the ring's basement. Finally, it makes sense that the entire area where a ranger is hiding is trapped to high heaven. Each possibility for a skill use has a place in the world and doesn't give off the feeling that it was placed there to fill a quota. Due to this, each build feels immediately more useful, giving each player a moment to shine in most of the places you can visit in Sonora. Not to mention that in some select cases you can use skills in dialogue that are not their speech skill. In this way, it really feels like New Vegas. This is a well thought out translation of what was found in the 3D game and putting it into the older engine. This game is better at rewarding specialization than most other Fallouts, barring New Vegas. Mind you, I'm not knocking the previous games. It's rather the fact that Sonora put a lot of effort and care into this aspect, and it shows big time. But San Brahman is another bust in gathering information about my people. I'm getting a bit desperate here, not gonna lie. But there is still one last lead that I can check. A small town south of here, living from providing water to caravans, if I understand correctly. I don't have high expectations, but that's the only lead I have. So, off to Kasag Grande. This place is a dump, much more than any other I visited thus far. A broken water pump? Yeah, I got that. The whole town gives off a very uninviting vibe, like there is something that weighs all these people down. Every time I ask about this place's history, everyone tells me to piss off or changes the subject. Anyway, I don't see any obvious clues as to where my people might have been taken, and the mayor is also not very helpful. But he has a task for me. Of course he does. Some highwaymen robbed a caravan and barricaded themselves in an abandoned train station. That's the place, but why is there no one here? Shit, that's the stuff that was stolen. This whole setup looks like a diversion. Better get back to the mayor and warn him that something is off. I return straight to him. An empty office. No sign of the mayor. Something must have happened. Wait a second. There is no one around to fuck with me. And there is a computer I was wondering about since earlier. Might as well take a look. And this is rather surprising. Not something that I actually expected. I finally got a lead on the rest of my people. In this rundown mansion of all places. The residents of Kasag Grande service caravans, and yes, that includes slave caravans. One was passing through here not so long ago, going to a place called Tucson. Damn, that was a lucky break for my search. I even considered to go there right away, but I hate to leave some businesses unfinished. The guard outside points me to an abandoned bar, where it turns out that the bandits have kidnapped the mayor's daughter. They demand 10,000 caps for her release. I managed to bring it down to 1,000 and pay the ransom, freeing her. These guys were former residents of Kasag Grande, actually kicked out by the mayor with the help of some outside benefactors, wanting to protect their route from Phoenix to Tucson. The fact is that neither side is really right here. Bastos, the mayor, did actually drive them out, but they were warring over this important caravan stop for a far longer time before. One clan against another. The mayor was just the last one that managed to hold on to power. There were many killed on both sides. This whole cursed place is built on what basically is civil war atrocities. The rather large cemetery outside of town is proof of that. The graveyard is unguarded. Let's see what I can find there. I know that this isn't the most glamorous thing that I have done, but hey, at least they definitely don't need this stuff. Oh, what's this? A ranger star? And a rather antique one at that. Probably the rangers mentioned in San Brahman might find it interesting. Okay, this item and other like it are rather interesting, so allow me to break the flow of the story a bit and talk about them, because they are scattered all across the wasteland, and it shouldn't take long. The Ranger Star is an old world relic. There is quite a number of them in the whole wasteland, and each of them has a very detailed and unique icon in the inventory. Another example of this game's great artwork. I actually stumbled across two of them already, not counting this one. An old holy book in San Brahman and an atomic watch in the sewers of Phoenix. They don't do anything on their own really, but these things can be worth something for someone in Sonora. For example, the Holy Book can be turned in at the Phoenix Cathedral for some caps or reputation with the fire worshippers, and the atomic clock will come in handy very soon. Each item like that has one specific character that will take an interest in it. The main thing is to find who might be interested in what artifact. The Holy Book and the Ranger Star are easy to deduce, but most others are not so straightforward. There is even an NPC in the market of Phoenix that can shed some light on each found relic. For the most part, he won't tell you who might take it, but he will probably point you in the right direction. This is a very fun addition that makes Sonora that much more lively. I love the idea of old relics that are not that useful, but hold some significance to the denizens of the wasteland. As I see it, it makes the whole experience that bit more coherent and believable. It makes it easier for me to believe that the pre-war world really existed and is stretching its hand through time to touch the lives of Sonora even now. I love such little touches. A collectible not only for the collectible's sake, but one that has an actual place in the world. Now let's leave this damn place. But the encounter with the bandits made me curious about the raider community a bit to the east of here. I believe I can make a small detour. After all, I have the next destination already plotted and Tucson isn't going anywhere. Looks like a nice stronghold of heavily armed bandits. I'm afraid this will not end well. Don't know if I can take them all. Oh, that's a bit unexpected. This place isn't a combat arena at all. The bandits aren't hostile. Not yet at least. Let's keep it that way. After I convince the guard at the gate to let me in, I make a straight beeline for the leader of the bandits, Ben. He gives me a bit of trivia about this particular band of riders after I convince him that I can be useful. And he gives me an actual quest. They call themselves Blue Shields. I believe that this is due to the fact that they operate on the olden highways, and the signage of the interstates in Arizona were all in blue, thus Blue Shields. They are a ragtag band of raiders, with most of their number coming from Kasag Grande, after the current mayor took over. But I warmed up to this particular band really quick, mostly due to Ben and his idea for this place. I must confess that this guy is one of the two in the whole of Sonora who has the most coherent and practical approach of what to do with this place and his people, the other one being Lucas from Garage City. He wants me to go to the tinsmiths, these are the guys that reside in Tucson, and convince them to recognize the Blue Shields as a legitimate settlement, allowing them to service their caravans. In return, Ben will provide fuel from their oil tank and will stop raiding caravans. I was so surprised that Ben had an actual coherent plan for the raiders that it threw me for a loop for a moment. Honestly, that sounds like a very good idea and a great plan for ending the raider threat in these parts. Sure, I could try kill them all, but the alternative sounds way better. Seeing as I was already planning to go to Tucson anyway, that just fits perfectly. Look, Mr. Sentry, I have a very prized atomic watch you will observe. Yep, this is one of the old relics in use. The watch can be shown to the tinsmiths to gain access, quite useful, and then turned in for equipment or discount. This is the place I was longing for all this time I traveled the wasteland. My people? What about them? They can wait. I finally arrived at Energy Weapon Central. I can buy something that has some range to it and isn't some two rusty blades strapped together. Just look at the selection. It's expensive as hell. Shit. I think I'll pass for now. Okay, let's look for my people. Speaking to Mr. Hard, yes, I know it's a stupid name. What of it? He tells me that the villa residents were sent to the exclusion zone, so they can, by chance, deactivate its defenses. The idea? No, the actual faith that some random villagers who just a while ago were planting crops will be able to defeat the base's robots and deactivate the artificial intelligence that is commanding it. That's just the same level of planning that went into this guy's name. Sure, they don't care about the slaves, but any of them producing any result would be nothing short of astonishing. I guess it's the 1,000 monkeys with typewriters approach to solving problems. But whether it makes tactical or strategic sense or not isn't relevant. The relevant thing is that I agreed to do it, and that this guy's talking head is phenomenal. This is actually something that I want to talk about a bit. If you paid attention to the footage thus far, you probably saw a few new sprites here and there. I even pointed some of them out. A new trailer sprite, a new truck, character models, talking heads, not to mention the new inventory icons for weapons and the newly added stuff. I wager that if Sonora would be your first game on this engine, you wouldn't know the difference between what is new and what isn't. This is how well the new additions are designed, integrating seamlessly into this old engine. And that isn't an easy task. Many times it just feels off, not matching the style at all, and that is the most common result. But not here. The artist who made this, which I assume were both Alexanders who worked on it, did actually manage to pull off the impossible if you ask me. And the talking heads are simply fantastic. I honestly think that they are as good as anything that came before, if not better. It's just a pity that they are not voiced. Don't get me wrong, I fully understand why that is. It's just that for me the lack of voice acting somehow doesn't allow them to reach their full potential. I guess it would help me to visualize these characters a little better. Either way, these new graphic additions are for the most part spectacular. It's a joy to look at them. All that fawning over the new sprites didn't get me any closer to freeing the last of my people though. I guess solving the problem with the exclusion zone will, so let's get cracking. In this whole area there are some slave survivors, but most of all there are these damn irritating robots. You know, the ones with the cattle prod, pokey, stingy thing on the bottom, the ones that will most likely knock you down on each hit, sending you sliding across half of the map, or until you hit a container. I hate these robots, but at least they are manageable. I am completely convinced that the sentry bots would be impossible to take on at this point. Oh, and here is the rest of our community. By that I mean my father. He of course doesn't have anything to say that might help me right now, but it's good to see that he's safe. I still have to finish my mission to get him out. What's this? Give me a minute, I have some tinkering to do. Ah, a pulse generator. Now the robots are fucked. Still employing hit and run tactics, but they go down way faster. As a hand-to-hand specialist, this made the whole level much easier than expected. The base's AI is in the last level of the bunker. Predictably, it wants to be unleashed, out of the base and into the wasteland. Yeah, no. There are enough idiots running around. I don't need an unhinged computer adding to the mix. Sorry, Zax, this is the place you'll be terminated. Then I told my father he can return to the villa. This marks all my compatriots freed and returned safely. But that doesn't mean that the game is over. In fact, this is almost precisely half of the adventure, unless it is if you don't wander off too much. I will return to the villa to see how things are going, but I have still some stuff to do here. The blue shields are still counting on me, and after deactivating Zax, Mr. Hart is very receptive to my plea to establish relations with the raiders. Good, one thing out of the way. Let's see if the tinsmiths themselves have something that they need facilitating. Turns out they do need a hand. Some attacks they need to be stopped. On it. The trail leads to this abandoned building. In the basement I find some runaway slaves, but they seem to be equipped rather nicely for simple slaves. Oh, the direct approach didn't work. Let's try something else. The repair skill is immensely useful, although it's strange that only I survived this. Oh well, back to Mr. Hart. The next task involves finding the whereabouts of one of their own in Kasag Grande. I search the graveyard again. While digging, a ranger stops me. He was the one who killed the tinsmith and doesn't want me to dig him up again. I managed to convince him to let me go. I don't want to get on the bad side of the rangers just yet. Not until I find out how they operate and what the bigger picture is. By completing this assignment, Mr. Hart decided to send me to the group's benefactor with a report. to Puerto, where the Brotherhood of Steel resides. The Brotherhood? I was wondering if I'll see them in Sonora. To be honest, I wasn't sure if they are even in this. Yeah, there is a power armor on the main menu art, but the Brotherhood isn't strictly needed to have power armors. Although I'm curious what they are doing in Sonora. It's not that far from California as to not make sense, but I wonder what their mission objective here is. Okay, I'll definitely get to that. But first things first, let's get back to Ben and give him the good news, that they are one step closer to being a legitimate community in the Wasteland. Hello Ben, reporting back with good news. Now the last thing to do is make Kasag Grande recognize them, maybe not as a friend, but at least an official neighbor, allowing for trade and whatnot. Sure, not a problem. Strong-arming the mayor into this deal is something that I'll do with pleasure. He is somewhat of a pushover anyway. And with the tinsmith's recognition of the blue shields, he doesn't have any legs to stand on. And he knows it. It's either get on with the programming or be replaced. Glad to see that he chose the right option, the sensible option. The only option. Ben is happy with my work. He now believes that the future of his community is secured for the time being, and they can stop raiding, instead prospering through trade and caravan maintenance. That is in fact a very desirable outcome for these people. I'm pretty sure that not all agree with it, but what the hell? I managed to bring a bit of stability into the wasteland, and ruffling a few feathers is a small price to pay for that. Although, to be perfectly honest with you, that wasn't the only reason I helped the Blue Shields. In the immortal words of Master Yoda, "There is another one." I was playing it cool with the Blue Shields up until now, but there is something special in their base. Something that I was really after. An honest-to-God motorcycle. The vehicle to get in Sonora. First of all, it's way cooler than anything available in any Fallout to date. Counting tactics, and that game had a goddamn tank. Seriously, its design itself is unbelievably well made. And there are a ton of upgrades you can install. Better fuel consumption? Check. Better storage? Check. More storage? Check. Better tires and an additional seat? Check and check. For God's sakes, you can even install a Deathclaw skull on the front of the bike. Doesn't do anything, but looks hella cool. I also changed the light bulb in the front. Does it do anything? Don't know, don't care. It's there, so it must be installed. It's the axiom of RPG players. And wait till you see this, the holy grail of bike upgrades. A jet thrust exhaust. Come on, doesn't it look insanely cool? It really does. This bike is great. Don't get me wrong, the Highwayman from Fallout 2 was also nice and all, but I had always the uncanny feeling that it will fall apart somewhere along the way between Vault City and the NCR. Plus, this time around the sprite of the vehicle actually changes with some new upgrades. That's an insane amount of detail for a mod no less. This Sonoran piece of machinery looks and feels sturdy and a lot of fun. The one thing though is that I feel that it should be driven wearing exclusively the leather jacket. It doesn't have to, but I feel it should. All these fun upgrades will come later, as I will get them along the way. I had the unstoppable urge to talk about this bike, as it is one of the most fun and unique elements of this game. Yeah, a mode of transportation, other than your own 2 feet, is nothing new in these games, but I feel that a bike very much is. Let's hop on and drive into the wasteland. It honestly feels like a lot of time has passed since I left the villa on the quest to find my people. Coincidentally, this is also the exact moment this game narrative structure changes from pursuit and investigation to Wasteland Power politicking, not unlike New Vegas. These two titles are remarkably similar in their approach to story curation and even exploration. The first part being a rather straight line to reach Flagstaff, then Tucson to free the people of the villa, and the second part is like a web cast on the map, the quests and interests pulling you every which way. We even saw some parts of the greater conflict in Sonora already, I just elected not to meddle in it up until now. But that changes tonight, as the villa's elders convene a meeting on what to do next to secure the community's safety. For starters, they want the mine in Flagstaff gone, collapsed, destroyed, simply put out of commission. Well, that is rather understandable as the mine is so close nearby and works on slave labor. It will always provide a steady need for more slaves to maintain its operation. This puts the villa at risk. For the second task, they want the factory in Garage City defunct. No, I will not do that. The villagers are actually getting really angry with me for my stance, and I, on the other hand, feel my goodwill and attachment to this community quickly evaporating, to the point that by the end of this meeting, it could be gone for good. For God's sakes, they even took issue with my motorcycle, my bike. They are moronically anti-technology, something that stems from their founder, Felix Tejada. With this approach, they soon will be easy pickings for the next rider gang coming this way. The reasoning concerning the Watts plant is as follows. The mere fact that Garage City could get their shit together and restart the factory is a threat, as more people would go there in search for work and caravans would start to view it as a potential destination. It could result in more people around, that would then in turn fuck with the villa, or so goes their thought process. Screw that order, I simply will not do that. Pretty sure that if Garage City would suddenly decide to become farmers and became a bustling city because of that, they wouldn't find much fault with it. The fact that this is Watts Electronics that we are talking about, oh shock horror, technology, informed their decision more than anything else, I wager. But Flagstaff is more than possible. A well-placed charge at the entrance corridor should do the trick. Yes, done. And even no one got upset over it. This town is a goner. Without the mine, it will soon fall apart. Good riddance. No love lost here. Now let's focus my attention on the more problematic part of the assignment. Garage City. But my friend Lucas has a good out for everyone involved in this situation. Let's establish trade relations with the villa, trading their surplus crops for parts and other stuff they might need in the future. If I'm being completely honest, I have an additional motive here. More than anything else, this agreement should be the end of the anti-technology outlook of the villa. Trading with Garage City would mean local caravans going to and from the community. The kids would inadvertently see some cool stuff coming with the merchants that would lead them to ask questions and ultimately would probably crumble the wall of superstition surrounding technology. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it will happen, I'm sure of it. Or at least it should happen. I managed to convince the elders of this idea somehow. With that done, the next assignment presents an actual bit of foresight on the part of the leadership. They decide they need protection, seeing as they can't keep bad actors out on their own. For once, good thinking. They sent me to the Arizona Rangers headquarters to form an alliance with them, setting me on the final path to shape Sonora's political destiny. Although, as always, my designs are not as straightforward as the elders want it to be. Sure, I'll seek Ranger assistance, but not just yet. First, let's see what Mr. Hart had in mind sending me to Puerto. Plus, I'm really curious about the Brotherhood in Arizona. Next stop, Steelport. Ah, so the Brotherhood set up shop on a warship. Not a bad idea if I say so myself. They can pack up and leave at any time, or they could if they had the fuel for it, which I'm not entirely convinced they have. They are commandeered by General Dixon, to whom I get access thanks to Mr. Hart's recommendation. This is one of two omnipresent people in all of Sonora, the other being the Ranger leader. I mean, he has to be omnipresent, because he knows that I blew up the mine in Flagstaff, even though the people who were actually present on site don't. He will also know each and every instance of me interfering with Brotherhood business in the whole of Sonora. Although he, oh so graciously, forgives me for my transgressions this time. There are very many of these businesses that I could have already fucked with. I didn't, but it is very likely that if you play this game, you will potentially screw with their designs more than once at this point. General Dixon even helpfully tells me parts of their designs. Wait, you know what? As these designs are actually fascinating, or rather their way of achieving them is, let me break sequence here, I want to paint the whole picture. The Brotherhood in 2160 came via ship to Puerto Penasco and established a base here. promptly sending scouts into the surrounding wasteland. Right now we have 2167, so the Brotherhood is operating in these parts for 7 years. They knew that even though they are superbly equipped and trained, their number is simply too low to subjugate the whole of Arizona and New Mexico, which is actually very much noticeable in-game. The people you see in Steelport are pretty much all there is when it comes to the Brotherhood in Sonora. So they needed a different approach to bring these regions to heel. This is where the fire worshippers and tinsmiths come in. The scouts sent to Phoenix came back with a report about a small cult operating there, and at the same time they formed an alliance with the Tucson scrap merchants. A year after the scouts returned, the Brotherhood installed a new leader in the church, changing their operating policies for a far more expansionist one. What is interesting is that the Brotherhood has even a contingency to change the church's leader in the near future, so that he cannot consolidate power. Then the fire worshippers picked up some of the slack, creating the uranium mine in Flagstaff and adopting slavery as a legitimate way of operating it, as well as sending some of the slaves to the tinsmiths. To sum it up, the Brotherhood has its vassals, and those vassals have their own, spanning basically the whole game world of Sonora. It's pretty amazing to think that almost all the events that I so far stumbled upon were in some way connected to the Brotherhood. What's more, I think that this is the most cutthroat portrayal of them in any of the Fallout games, and I for one love it. I always regarded them as self-important assholes that thought way too much about themselves, and this here is the logical next step to their base policies. They already regarded all advanced technology as theirs. Other people may use it, but only if they report back directly to them. Then what about slavery? They don't like it personally, but this business is not actually being operated by them. It's the tinsmiths and fire worshippers racket. Out of sight, out of mind. The balance of power in Sonora is insanely tilted in the favor of the Brotherhood. And if left unchecked, they will probably sooner or later have this whole region in their grasp. I for one don't intend to let this happen. I never really liked the Brotherhood. I get that they have all the cool stuff and iconography, but their ways and methods aren't something I agree with. That's it for the history lesson. I freely admit that this setup is superb. Now it's my time to throw a spanner in its workings. The general asks, orders me to destroy the ranger base. Yes, of course, General. I have no intention of doing this. But that doesn't mean that I won't milk the Brotherhood for whatever they are worth. Starting with this thing, a weapon that needs some parts and a little love. Ah, yes. Plasma rifle. This is what I was searching for such a long time. This will put some distance between me and my enemies. It will make my problems simply melt away. I also picked up on the fact that there is a Brotherhood caravan/patrol missing in the nearby town of Mexicali, now known only as Inferno. A very nice name. Oh, and fitting too. My train of thought on accepting this mission is, if the Brotherhood has people missing here, they are probably very much dead. That in turn means that some interesting stuff might be found on their corpses. It is the Brotherhood after all. And if anyone is still alive, maybe I will be able to trade their safety for something useful back at Steelport. We'll see about that. The radiation here is rather problematic, nothing so high as to hinder exploration, but definitely noticeable. Actually, there is a very large number of crazed ghouls in the whole of Inferno. If not for my plasma rifle, this might have been difficult. The navigation is also a bit tricky, with many obvious paths being blocked by rubble forcing me into the sewers to navigate around, or rather underneath them. The one gripe I have with it is that it isn't visually obvious why a path is non-existent. It would be fun if there would be more piles of debris or even cars visually on the maps that block the way forward, thus forcing me underground. In the sewers I find Paladin Barkley, whose team I have to locate. And here they are, or rather what is left of them. On them I find some rations and, what's more interesting, a power armor helmet. Well, this piqued my interest. I think that this mysterious mansion is the last place I haven't explored yet. Oh, super mutants. The first time I see them in Sonora, and only one, at least until I get to Dayglow, and that's a DLC. But that is still way ahead of us. Oh, now I remember that isn't entirely true. There is a mobile base crawler filled with super mutants, but it's very likely that you won't even stumble upon it. It's a special encounter. The residents of this mansion are led by Levi, and what's most important, they are not hostile. Levi demands from me that I help Diana, a scientist from Paladin Barclay's group, to create a stabilizing mutagen for his people, so that they might live without pain. In most cases, I don't take too kindly to demands. His designs are quite admirable. It's decided. I'll help them. In the basement, apart from Diana, is this magnificent thing. T-51B power armor. That is missing a helmet. Guess what I found? And it fits like a glove. It's a bit damaged, but if I get the last part from Levi, this will be a significant upgrade for me. So now I am that much more willing to help Diana. I recover her chemical kit from the ruins, which she then uses to create the stabilizing agent. I take it and set out into the ruins to give some semblance of relief to the ghouls and mutants of Inferno. There are these strange totems built everywhere. When I was blasting my way across the city, I noticed that the ghouls were gathering around them. If they somehow flock to these places, it will be the best option to set up the sprayers there, as to affect as much of them as possible. That should work. Now back to Levi. He is very grateful for what I and Diana have done, and as the cherry on top, he gives me the command module for the power armor. Yes, now we are talking. It's still not at 100%, but that is way better than anything I had up until now. The strength bonus is also nice, allows me to haul more stuff around. Hello Diana, ready to go? We just have to pick Paladin Barclay on the way and leave Inferno. All in all, this excursion was very much worth it, plus it was nice to see a super mutant in Sonora. Although this made me ponder something. Did you notice that all Fallout games have somehow the super mutants in them? East Coast, West Coast, it doesn't matter. And many say that this is a ubiquitous part of the Fallout universe, so they have to be everywhere, whether it makes sense or not. Yes, I'm looking at you, Fallout 3. But Sonora pretty much confirms for me that they don't really have to be present. Sure, there are a couple of them right here in Inferno. For one, it really makes sense for them to be here, but much more importantly, the rest of the game is completely devoid of them. And it doesn't take away from the narrative one bit. What I'm trying to say is that you don't have to cram all the recognizable bits of the Fallout universe into your games to make it Fallout. It's completely sensible to leave some parts out if they don't fit or don't make sense to be there. Don't get me wrong, it's fine to include them, but maybe not if it requires some elaborate retconning to explain their existence in one place or another. It's far more interesting to see new factions like the Tinsmiths or the Caesar's Legion. It makes the Fallout lore that much more lively. By the way, I have a question when it comes to the West Coast. Is there any way for new super mutants to be created? Or were the VATS only at the military base, now destroyed twice? I just wonder if the super mutant population is finite at this point. That aside, I will see both Diana and Paladin Barclay off, and as I already know what the Brotherhood is up to, it's finally time to go talk with the Rangers about a potential alliance with the Villa. The Ranger base is on a dam. Another fun concept. There is a shitload to do around here, chief among them helping the Rangers themselves. By the way, these are the Rangers that will commit to the Ranger Unification Treaty with the NCR Rangers in about 110 years' time, when Caesar's Legion starts pushing into these parts. You know, these are the guys that will have the iconic dusters from New Vegas. Although, truth be told, this whole operation makes the impression that it is held together with spit and duct tape. How the hell the Rangers intend to provide any protection in Arizona when this place is virtually overflowing with problems? I still can't tell. Looking at this, the power and influence imbalance between the two main groups in Sonora is that more apparent and mind-boggling. There is just no way that the Rangers will succeed at anything here. Well, they won't. Not unless I tip the scales in their favor. which is very much what I intend to do. Before they even let me into their base, they want me to run a few errands. They probably don't know that I am a professional bullshitter by now, and I can weasel my way into the base no problem by talking to the guard. But I feel that bolstering their position and expanding their situational awareness is a worthwhile endeavor, so I will help them anyway. Plus the experience is always nice. Speaking of getting into the dam, there is a small quirk here when it comes to power armor. They will not let me in if I wear it. This is actually one of the places that wearing a power armor has its drawbacks. Lord Aaron and some people in the villa or in Casa Nueva will not speak to the player if the armor is even in the inventory. It actually makes sense that the rangers won't let someone in if he or she wears the armor of their enemy. And I guess some people simply want to see who they are talking to. But this is the one change in Sonora that I wish simply wouldn't exist. It's narratively strong and satisfying, but mechanically tedious. Each time I want to visit the ranges, I have to leave my armor at the bike or dump it on the ground. The same goes for talking to someone that disapproves of power armor, which ultimately results in the fact that he or she is talking with you with the armor stretched out beneath your feet. Again, narratively it makes sense, but the gameplay mechanics make it plainly irritating. This is one change I could go without. This here is the Rangers comm and mapping station, but the radio has limited range. What is it with Rangers and their problems with communications? Yeah, sure, I'll help. The repairs are not that challenging. In the process, it turns out that someone might be listening in. Let's check that out, as well as scout the nearby town of Quartz. As I am already going into the wastes, I can tackle both of these. Using the radio, I find a small listening station somewhere outside the ranger base. It is well trapped, but I still managed to dismantle the whole equipment. I for one suspect the Brotherhood. They would definitely want to know what the rangers are up to. This would also give them a leg up on their rivals. This just shows how much better trained General Dixon's troops are, covering all their bases and gathering information wherever they can. With this done, let's go to Quartz. High levels of background radiation. According to the ranger present, this wasn't always the case. This must be a rather fresh occurrence. I scout the place gathering the geodata required. A trailer park. And here is the culprit for the place becoming an irradiated hellhole. The squatters here tried to build an improvised reactor using the waste found here. Not a good idea. It started leaking, and as a result we have what we have. Nothing that can be done about it now. Now I have to locate a ranger party that has gone missing, apparently somewhere around Garage City. Oh, jackals. Are these not the people that the Garage City guard warned me about a million years ago? This must be their hideout. Cannibals. Is it worth talking to them? Nah, it's better to wipe them out. One by one, melting into a warm pool of goo on the cave floor. I feel a little guilty about this whole ordeal. They can't do anything to me. With my power armor and my plasma rifle, I am way too powerful for them. It's a massacre really, each of them just waiting for their inevitable turn. Oh well, I even rescue a ranger trapped here. Okay, let's get out.
There is no one who would dare to take my place,
the jackal sentry says. Buddy, there is no one who can take your place. Okay, and that's that. Finally, now I can talk with the ranger leader. Turns out he is open to an alliance with the villa, but not without a few tasks that will cement their place in Arizona. Sure, makes sense. I don't want to ally with someone who will be wiped out in a few years' time, leaving the villa in a difficult situation. Okay, what is there to do, General Mossman? Flagstaff mine? Been there, done that. Give me something else. Oh, problems in San Brahman. I wondered when it would creep up again. But before I go, I have a question, General Mossman. Can I join the Rangers? After listing the impressive amount of stuff that I already accomplished for the Rangers, including fixing the power generation in the dam itself, he allows me to join. Honestly, I probably have done more than all other Rangers put together. But I am still very interested what the perks for joining are. A gun of my choosing and a Ranger Duster. Is that the same duster that the New Vegas veteran rangers will be wearing? These are the Arizona Rangers, so it very much could be. The icon clearly looks like it. Oh, that's a letdown. I really expected the sprite to change. As it is right now, it looks exactly like leather armor on my character. You know what's funny? If this would be any other mod than Sonora, I wouldn't expect the armor sprites to change. But this mod showed so much attention and dedication to detail that I half expected them to change. Guess it would be too much work to do a whole new set of graphics for the main character. Although it still is a significant bummer for me. Don't get me wrong, this doesn't take anything away from Sonora. Oh well, guess we can't have everything. The situation in San Brahman is easily solved by telling the mercenaries outside of town to simply leave them be. Speech is a literal superpower in these games. Now it's time for the first heavy hit to the Brotherhood, dismantling the fire worshippers in Phoenix. To do that, I have to make contact with the resistance in the city, or rather beneath it, as they of course reside in the sewers. And again, the first thing they ask for is checking what's up with the radio transmitter in the city. I swear, any connection to the Rangers makes your group susceptible to comm problems. Good thing that the villa has no such technology, at least it won't generate any problems in the future. Now the leader of the resistance sends me to the cathedral to find a monk that might help take it over. You know what? Fuck it. Ah, that's much better. After melting my way to the basement, I find a vault. Was it some building code in pre-war America that every cathedral has to have a vault underneath it? Melting people in purple robes makes me a bit nostalgic. Also makes me wonder if the Brotherhood engineered this cult to look this way because they studied what the Master did in Fallout 1 and found out what worked and what didn't. If yes, then credit where credit is due, for taking parts of the enemy's ideas and making them their own. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. What are they up to here? Ah, a bomb. That seems to be why the uranium mine in Flagstaff was established, raw materials for this device. The Brotherhood has probably already a use in mind for this doomsday device. Although from where I'm standing, having a bomb is only half of the actual weapon, the other being the means to deliver it. And the Brotherhood in Sonora didn't show me anything that would lead me to think that they have some rocket lying around that is capable of carrying such a massive device, nor a plane. This is also the place that confirms that the Brotherhood is very directly puppeteering the fire worshippers. Ulysses Grant is their envoy to Phoenix. They have a guy on location at every time, so that Aaron doesn't get too uppity with ideas of independence. This place is way too important for General Dixon to just let it operate without oversight. The control must be very hands-on. If Aaron is the puppet, then Grant is here to make sure that he feels the Brotherhood's arm up his ass, tickling his liver at all times. So, let's take care of the puppeteer. Phoenix is now definitely decultified. Have you found Matthias? The Liberation leader asks. Well... You know what? He wasn't willing to help us after all, but I have some good news for you. With that done, there is only one obstacle still standing, or rather floating, in the way of the Rangers, that being the Brotherhood ship. But I won't be attacking them just yet, because during my travels I came across information and places that I didn't describe in any detail but are very much worth mentioning. The information part is a big one. I will talk about it in a bit, and for that I still need the Brotherhood intact, so their continued existence is guaranteed, until I finish my tasks further down south. As for the places that I didn't talk about, there are at least 4 bigger ones you can visit in Sonora. For example, this little oasis, Casa Nueva. This place was actually founded by the Brotherhood, or rather they rediscovered the plantation and repopulated it. They invited the followers of the Apocalypse here to man the plantation's laboratory to research new, better plant life for the Wasteland. It's very similar to Vault 22 from New Vegas, with similar results. But I for one wouldn't harp on the similarity of these quests too much, as making new plants that would thrive in the Wasteland would be a logical avenue of research for any group that wants to advance humankind. And if I'm not entirely wrong, there was to be a similar area in Fallout 2, the EPA base. It was cut from the game and then reintroduced by the restoration patch. Plus, this plantation had already the base infrastructure in place, and the Brotherhood still needed something to eat. This place is under their direct influence, securing at least the base food products for Steelport. In the lab is also one of the most unique sprites in the whole game. I got very strong Fallout 3 Herald vibes here. Then there is Santa Ana with a missing crown problem, a village that suffers because of a nearby Ulrich, and Vault 27. I will leave these locations for you to discover and uncover their stories, because there really is a lot to learn about. I know that I already spoiled and will spoil a bunch, but at least I leave this little bit for you, if you ever try and play this game, which is something I very strongly recommend. With this out of the way, we are coming to the information part. There is something that must be dealt with swiftly to secure the whole of Arizona and beyond. You see, according to the Brotherhood, there is a Mexican army gathering in the south. For now, the Sonoran desert is stopping them, but they will eventually solve that logistical challenge, establishing staging stations. That is something I have to stop by any means, even if that means helping the Brotherhood. I don't think that the Rangers alone will be able to stop the Mexican army themselves, not yet at least. They still need to consolidate power and grow a bit, and that will take time. I will give them that time. First, outside the Brotherhood ship, I find Paladin Latam. He will direct me to Paladin Dobbs, who in turn will take me on missions to dismantle radar bases. This might seem as an unconnected task, but after a while battling these raiders, I came to the conclusion that this is the vanguard of the invading Mexican army. Firstly, they speak Spanish, which doesn't actually mean much at all on its own, but they are also very well equipped and trained. It much more resembles the fight with raiders in Fallout 2 than the fight I had with the Jackals, or even the one I could have had with the Blue Shields. Some of the raiders even wear nice green armor. There is something about combat armor in Fallout that gives the wearer a veneer of professionalism. And that is exactly how I saw them, as a forward party whose mission was to lay groundwork for the main army coming from the south, and also harass the Brotherhood. They were probably already making staging areas. Arizona has less time than I imagined. Of course, I could be completely off the mark here, as I believe there is nothing in the actual game that would confirm my suspicions. But this is how I see it, and I acted accordingly. That is why I needed the Brotherhood. Only through their missions this operation could be dismantled. Now I secure my weapon and hop on my bike to cross the Great Sonoran Desert to get to the far south. Highway 15 leading into town, a large road sign, an old truck with a trailer on the road, praying mantises swarming the area. Welcome to Hermosillo, staging ground for part of the Mexican army. Right by the road is a small ranch. The residents are very suspicious of anyone coming this way. That includes me. The army belongs to the New Mexican Republic. Its main body is taking part in fierce battles with the local tribes far to the south, outside the bounds of the game map. The president sent a detachment led by General Sarabia to Hermosillo to set up a temporary base. New orders that came a week later made this base a permanent one, no doubt as a base of operations to push further north. This is exactly what I was worried about. Mexico is actually getting its shit together. If their military will end up being anything like the future NCR, this could be a big threat to Arizona in the near future. The best course of action will be dismantling their operations here. And a bit underwhelmingly, this is actually the only course of action I can take. I would love to go around the base and talk with people, find out more about them, how's their life further down south, what their belief systems and governments are like. Although the fact that I am not able to do it isn't strange by any stretch of the imagination. This, after all, is a military base. so letting some outsider to snoop around would be highly questionable. The only Mexican I can talk to is the sentry, and not for very long either. It is what it is, but I have a job to do. I take no pleasure in this. Thinking a bit more about it, in the world of Fallout, the Mexican people have way more reasons to hate the former US. They were annexed by them, were they not? This will naturally build resentment even after so many years have passed. There is even a small square with a pre-war statue, a monument to the victims of the annexation of Mexico, which was accompanied by massive border riots. So, maybe this outcome was always to be expected. I finally get to General Sarabia and his officers. This battle can be quite intense, even for this late stage of the game. Sarabia dies in the end, but I really would like to talk to him at least once, even if it ultimately would end in an inevitable battle. He sounds like an interesting person. I finally removed the greatest threat for the communities I came from, giving them at least a few years without the danger from the south. I almost said that I gave them peace, but knowing the communities in Arizona, there will be no peace, at least for a while. What is fascinating to me is the fact that this, arguably biggest threat for the northern lands, is something that is on the very peripheries of gameplay. And I don't mean by that they are in the very southern point of the world map, but rather the fact that the Mexicans are barely mentioned, if ever really. But the threat they pose is all too real. Only by talking with the Brotherhood can you discover that there is even a potential for problems from the south. And if you take my approach and are hell-bent on destroying the Brotherhood, you could even completely miss the Mexican army part of the game. Especially that they aren't tied to the ranger path, at least I don't think that they are. The rangers are mired in local politics, and don't see that far outside their sphere of influence. The paladins and General Dixon are way better at this, but their number puts into question how effective they would be in a war against an organized army that has a numbers advantage. If Fallout New Vegas is anything to go by, we actually know how much of a threat the Brotherhood would pose, and what their ultimate fate would be, pushed to the side, inside a bunker, or a ship. Largely irrelevant and stagnant. The Mexican army bypassing them and going further into Arizona and maybe later California. But all that won't be happening now. This is almost all Sonora has to offer, but before I put the finishing touches to the Brotherhood and the story, there is still a large part of the game I have to talk about. Sonora is actually the first mod that I know of that received its very own DLC, Dayglow. This is what we'll be doing right now. Back to Inferno. Unfortunately, I can only take about 20 pounds of equipment, leading me to believe that scrounging for supplies will be some part of the Dayglow experience. I think the best course of action will be leaving all of my armors by the bike and only taking my trusty plasma rifle and ammo. The trick now will be to not get hit. I sense that there will be a lot of kiting in the beginning. I speak with the guide and he takes me to the city, seeing as it isn't accessible from the main map. This is the entrance to Dayglow, guarded by ghouls. Actually, from what I know, normal people are rather rare in the city. Most of the residents came here after getting pushed out of Necropolis. The background radiation is substantial. It makes living in the city problematic if you're not a ghoul or a mutant. I'm curious of what I will find here. The message that reached me made the impression that whoever sent it isn't from here, but rather a concerned party. So there is no one to whom I will report to once I get in. I have to find out what is going on and what I can do to help. It's simply this: go to Dayglow and help the ghouls there. Whatever I choose, I choose. The important thing seems to be that the situation is resolved in one way or another. But to find out anything about this place, first I need to get in. There is a robot to destroy in the nearby arena. This is exactly why I decided to take the plasma rifle with me here. The robot never stood a chance. Welcome to Dayglow. Some residential buildings, a store, and a monorail. The monorail seems interesting, but there is nothing to be found in the station. I wonder if it will play a larger role later on. And this is Senor Gustavo, a rather important person here in San Isidro. He's one of the two shapers and movers of Dayglow. So, Senor Gustavo, is there something the community needs resolving? I am something of a problem solver. Restore the power station? Right on it. On the way to the dam, three things become apparent to me. First, the areas are nicely realized. Taking into account that these are part of the same city, they all have a rather strong identity, with a great deal of attention to detail. The locations of the DLC feel somehow a bit different than the ones in the base game, like there is even more detail than before. Or is it perhaps a byproduct of the other thing that I found out? Which is that all the areas of this DLC are linked together. By that I mean that there is no map travel. There isn't even the city map travel that we grew so accustomed to. But here I have a gripe. While it probably helps to sell the idea that you are traversing a whole city from end to end, the lone act of traveling is rather tedious. The amount of backtracking is enormous, and honestly it started to take away from my enjoyment of the experience. The devs tried to alleviate some of this by placing encounters that would take place on the same maps a bit further into the story, so that I could find something new from time to time going from place to place. But it rarely managed to make me forget that I yet again have to transition several maps to get somewhere. For me it was a bit of a misstep. And yes, I already hear what some of you might be saying. There is the monorail, because as it turns out it really can play a role in Dayglow. But this isn't really an answer to the main problem. Firstly, I had to go through the whole city to even start the quest to get it online again, and by the time I had it repaired, I basically was finished with what I had to do in the DLC. Secondly, by the very nature of a rail-based communication system, the places you can go to are very limited, lowering its usefulness significantly. I used it only twice or 3 times I think, one being the time I wondered how it worked. But I guess there is a bonus location that can be reached only by the rail, so there is that. One could say that the monorail was a sound idea, but placing it at the end of play derailed it completely. The third thing I noticed is that there are a ton of robots everywhere. A perk that gives bonus damage to them would be highly appreciated. The situation isn't different at the dam I arrived at. It's overrun with robots. I have some oil to spill. Outside the compound is a ghoul reporting back to Gustavo. He is here to help me restore the plant's power. Well, I will not be needing him. Having to wait for a slow-moving ghoul is excruciating. The power is back. Gustavo will be pleased. Now to restore the radio communication in the city. I remember seeing a radio tower on the way to the dam. Maybe there I will find some parts to scavenge. Ha! Here they are. Comms have been re-established, sir. Now I have to take a holodisc with a message to the other side of town to John Butler. There will be a lot of maps that I have to go through to get there. I better get right to it. Oh, a hotel in the middle of the city. Looks like the owner has some problems that I think I can help with. Then Mr. Handy, don't worry, I will lay my hands on him and heal it. This is how powerful my repair is. It still needs a disc with routines to work correctly. Luckily the disc is right here in my inventory. This guy is actually one of the largest quest givers in the entirety of Dayglow. He has a ton of tasks that will send me across the city. He honestly feels like a local mafia boss that is consolidating power, as many of his assignments consist of removing obstacles and even collecting debts. I'm not saying that he is a mafia figure, only that this whole quest chain has that feel to it. Must admit, it's quite fun. But I'm almost at San Diego, where Butler is residing. This place is a fine hub of activity. These two, for example, are looking for their friend. Sure, I can spend the time. Oh, wouldn't you know it? I found him. At least part of him. I'm very sorry to inform you, your friend is very much dead. What? They insist that he isn't and that I take him to San Isidro to a doctor there. Oh well, why not? That's their way of grieving probably. If this will help them to cope with the loss, then I see no problem with it. The doctor is also insisting that their friend is alive. Please explain to me how half of a ghoul can be alive. He isn't even moving. To prove my point, I humor the doctor and bring him some biogel from the hospital deeper in the city. And... oh, I stand corrected. The guy's brain installed in a robo-brain is functioning perfectly fine. 3 friends united at last. A bit strange visual, but what the hell. This was a fun little side quest. Now let's see what more can be done for the community of Dayglow. Butler wants to complete a deal with a caravan coming here from the hub, but he still needs some chips from the scavengers that occupy a factory in the city. Oh, that will prove to be rather problematic. You see, during my exploration of the city thus far, I already came across them. And how should I put it? They were quite rude to me. So I made it so that they can't be rude to anyone anymore. Yeah, dead as a doorknob. Oh, John doesn't mind at all, but he still needs the chips. Ha, that I can do. Here they are, Mr. Butler. The caravan is in trouble. Some rowdy super mutants are attacking them. At this point, muties are easy to deal with. Looks like Butler has a new idea for Dayglow after talking with the Fargo traders. He wants to use the military hardware from Coronado Island to trade with the hub and give Dayglow a new shine, uplifting everyone that lives in its borders. And for that, he needs me. But why didn't the ghouls do it themselves up until now, having such a treasure trove of old tech right here? Well, until I repaired the radio, it simply wasn't possible, as the island's defenses didn't allow them to get near it. But Butler has the access codes that can now be sent to the base via radio transmission, allowing me to get to it using a boat. The defenses securing the base on the ground, however, are a different matter, and I have proven myself to be very capable. I am wondering about something. Is Butler's way the only one? What about Gustavo? He surely has something to say in this instance, and he actually does. This is the central conflict of Dayglow. It pertains to what path forward the ghouls should take. Basically, an introvert or extrovert approach. Butler is very vehement about the fact that the riches of Coronado will allow his people to trade for whatever they need. Food, meds, all that stuff. Well, he isn't wrong about that. But at the same time, he is more than willing to leave San Isidro behind. San Diego being his primary focus, as well as the weapons taken out of Dayglow, will probably wreak havoc on many communities of the Wasteland. Gustavo, on the other hand, believes that Coronado should be used only by and for Dayglow, making it basically a stronghold that keeps most people out. With these two approaches, I myself feel far better with what Butler has in mind. Sure, the weapons from Coronado can and will bring Judgment Day to the Wasteland. Some communities will prosper because of them, others perish. But that is the buyer's problem. And while the resources of the island are finite, establishing trade relations with the outside world is very likely to benefit the ghouls in the long term, enriching the society as a whole. Be it as it may, to do anything, I first have to go to Coronado. The base's defenses are rather easy to deal with. The turrets are placed in such a way that I can peek around the corner, shoot and hide. The ones I encountered on the oil rig were far more problematic. Oh, sorry, we haven't been there in this video. But believe me, these are easily dispatched. I go down into the base and find a power armor, the second in the entire game, with a built-in sombrero hat, bonus style points. But it's weaker than that what is waiting for me in Inferno, but I will not say no to it for now. Disabling the rest of the base defenses is rather straightforward. Go to the mainframe and turn them off. Although I feel a little bit let down by this base. The howitzers outside made me think that it would be like the Sierra Army Depot. But it's nothing of the sort. It is a rather small and short base, map and quest-wise. I somehow had in my mind that there would be much more stuff to do here. An elaborate dungeon as the ending for this DLC would be just icing on the cake. But to be perfectly honest, this is just what I want pushed on the developers. I just imagined that Coronado Island would have more oomph to it, more stuff to sink my teeth in. But it is a fact that to this day no one replicated the sheer awesomeness of the Sierra Army Depot. So I think I shouldn't be too hard on the Coronado base. The important thing is that the defenses are deactivated, and I can return ashore. On the mainland there is a short altercation that left me knocked out cold. This is done so that a mysterious stranger can come and talk to us for a bit. It's the same person that sent me a message to invite me to Dayglow. It's the one and only interaction I will have with him in person. He basically delivers the ending slides in the form of dialogue. I must admit, this works nicely. Thanks to him, I learned that Dayglow will prosper, thanks to the economic exchange with the hub that Butler set up, selling to them the weapons from Coronado Island. Sadly, San Isidro will become a slum, receiving only crumbs. After this, the guy vanishes. This is the end of the DLC. I can now return to Inferno, or spend more time in Dayglow, finishing quests that are still abandoned in this area, as I didn't yet do them all. So, what about this little add-on? First of all, it's immensely impressive that a mod for classic Fallout even got something like a DLC. Honestly, I didn't expect that. It's best played somewhere in the middle of Sonora. In this way it will pose an satisfactory challenge. But even my endgame character found some of the fights challenging, especially against the sentry bots. They tore through my armor way too easy. There was a lot of kiting involved to win some of the harder battles. The quests are numerous and fun, also well written. But paradoxically, the thing that requires the most praise as well as criticism is the curation of exploration in Dayglow. The maps are unique and very well put together. Each of them has a strong main theme and personality. But getting to each is tedious and exhausting most of the time. The amount of backtracking I had to do is way too much. Although it still remains an open question, if the travel was done in a different way, would the feeling of a coherent big city still be the same? Maybe it's simply the case that we have to put up with the less than optimal map transitions to appreciate the feeling of how big Dayglow actually is, the denseness of its neighborhoods. I don't think that it's something that we will resolve here now. But if this feeling of a dense city would be lost with another traveling system, then I'll gladly put up with this design choice. This was a fine adventure, but all good things come to an end. That means that there is one last thing left to do: confront General Dixon and finally put the Brotherhood out of commission. I could go down below deck, arm the atomic torpedoes and bolt. But I feel that would be discourteous to the General. After all, even though I don't like the Brotherhood and more broadly disagree with its methods, I can't disagree with their results. If it wasn't for me, this whole region would fall in their hands in the end after all. So, as a gesture of recognition for the General's accomplishments, I will fight him man to man. Plus, he has one of these unique super violent death animations. I will not deprive myself of that. Shit. This fight is way more difficult than I imagined initially. I have died here more than once. I guess the Brotherhood is really a force to be reckoned with. But that didn't save General Dixon in the end. Permission to leave the ship, General. I'll take that as granted. I dispatch the rest of the enemies on deck and leave the rest to the atom torpedoes I armed. By the way, atom torpedoes are exceedingly stupid. Dangerous, but stupid. In the real world, only Russia bragged of the Poseidon superweapon, a nuclear-tipped torpedo that is programmed to detonate in water, producing an irradiated tsunami that could hit all coastal cities in Western Europe or the American coasts. That is far more a terror weapon than anything with actual tactical or strategic use. A mass destruction temper tantrum. Either way, I get away from the ship and steelport, watching the fun firework display, heralding the end of the Brotherhood in Sonora. I report back to General Mossman and finally put the finishing touches to the Ranger Villa Alliance, triggering with this the ending slides. Establishing an alliance with the Rangers ensured the villa's protection for many years, but some of its residents had their feelings hurt by it and started sowing discord. Garage City establishes an alliance with the Rangers, bringing order and opening new caravan route to the Parker Dam. Flagstaff withers away together with the mine I blew up. The Wasteland once more claims this area. The tribes of San Brahman manage to keep their freedom, though they pay a high price in blood. That is what the ending slide says, but I managed to resolve their problems diplomatically, so I assume this refers to the losses before my arrival. After the destruction of the Brotherhood, the Church of Holy Fire gradually returns to a simple and peaceful existence, losing much of its influence. Trade in Kasag Grande boomed when Tucson increased its caravans. The region became a lot more busy. Some of the old residents didn't like that and left for other places. After being recognized as a legitimate settlement, the Blue Shields stopped the raiding and prospered. After the fuel ran out, they packed all their new belongings and founded a hunting settlement in the mountains. The tinsmiths of Tucson got their hands on powerful ancient technologies that strengthened their position in Arizona, making them a local power, increasing their influence. Even though the Brotherhood of Steel evaporated together with their ship, their brief incursion into Arizona will be felt for many years to come by the surrounding communities. After several generations, the Order will send scouts to these lands once again. Thanks to the mutagen, the feral ghouls calmed down and became peaceful. Levi no longer threatened travelers, but did not allow them into his domain. The Arizona Rangers grew stronger and expanded their influence. Word of their victory spread across the wasteland, bringing new territories and alliances. The Jackals were exterminated by me, but in time, new wild bands took their place. The military expansion from the south could not overcome the vast desert of Sonora, stranding them for a very long time in lands of former Mexico. But what about me? What happens to me? After joining the Rangers, I leave the villa to spread law and order throughout Arizona. This is the whole of Sonora's main story, because it is by far not the whole of Sonora. There is a ton of quests that I didn't do here, as well as places that I didn't visit. But what do I think about it? First, the amount of new graphics and assets for this game is simply astonishing. New sprites, weapons, tile sets, some of them used only once. That's a level of dedication that is commendable. The way all of them seamlessly integrate into the game world is fantastic. You will be hard pressed to find something, whether in the locations or your inventory, that you can say, "No, this style doesn't fit here." These graphics are such a natural addition that playing again Fallout 2, I half expected to see something, only to later remember it was an asset added by Sonora. Even the talking heads are on par with the ones from the previous game. This fidelity stretches even to the music, another perfect match. The narrative structure of first searching for my compatriots and then engaging in the local power politics gives this game a very New Vegas feeling. First, a more or less straight line to the target to then expand every which way. Each way you take will force you ultimately to interact with most of the communities in Sonora. Not all of them, but it will make sure that you go to many of them. Although the game also puts a premium on stuff left away from the beaten path, as to scratch that exploration itch that every RPG player has. Plus, there is a ton of special random encounters, from a mobile mutant base to an open-air cinema somewhere in the desert. The amount of work that went into Sonora is mind-boggling to me. Viewed without the knowledge of what is official and what is a mod, you would be hard-pressed to single Sonora out as the outsider. You know, many people put Fallout 1, 2 and New Vegas as the top 3 best Fallout games of all time. Well, this list has one more game added as far as I'm concerned. For me, Sonora jumped right to the second place, right after New Vegas. And it really feels like a blend of all these 3 games that came before it. The mechanics and engine of Fallout 2, the feel of fledgling societies and partial desolation of Fallout 1, as well as the abundance of quests and game narrative from Fallout New Vegas. They somehow blended all this together, and what's even more surprising, it worked. Honestly, ultimately, it doesn't matter how this Fallout ranking looks like, in what order. The one important thing is that if you like Fallout 1, 2 and New Vegas, by not playing this mod, you are robbing yourself of a great adventure in this post-apocalyptic world. One that not only is mechanically competent, but also narratively satisfying. And it even fits into the greater Fallout universe by not colliding with already established lore. I am very happy that I stumbled across this gem of a mod. First Gothic Archolos, now Fallout Sonora. Maybe there are other mods on a similar level that are worth playing. Thanks for holding out with me for this long. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. That is all I have for you today. Take care and maybe you will see us again in another in-depth look.